Hello and welcome back to another episode of Pop Culture Reacts as we are working our way through Radiohead's OK Computer and we are at Let Down.
Track five?
Yes, track 5.
Yes. So I'd lost count. Anything above four, very difficult.
You don't have that many more fingers.
Exactly. Although I did make a claim recently that I had six fingers. I can't remember why, but I don't have six fingers.
So obviously my first go around on OK Computer. So should we just jump in and then see if I am let
Yeah.
down or not?
Well, and that's the thing. Unfortunately, as a song title, it is suggestive, isn't it? It's kind of suggesting that this is the come down, not the come down, the let down track of the album. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see whether I'm going to say like at least it's keeping your interest, like the tracks seem to have so far.
Yes.
Let's do this. So that was Let Down. Let Down. Were
Let
you let
dude.
down?
No, not let down. It's the first one so far that really hasn't grabbed me though. It is it's a little bit blander than what we've had so far with stuff. Because even the one for the film, which obviously
Romeo and Juliet one, yeah.
yeah didn't wasn't like oh my god this is amazing, but it had something there that was like I can see what you do. I can see where this would work. This was it's just a little bit meh in there, but then it had a few sort of bits where I was like, "Ooh, I like that bit," or I like. There was a couple of moments in there, like I loved the bit in the outro with the electronics in there and
Yeah.
the layering up of the vocals at the end as well. I like that.
Oh, that bit where you kind of come out of the last verse before the chorus, the kind of pre-chorus bit where they just jump on each other. That I really like. That kind of no gap because no
Yeah,
gap necessary. Almost a total sort of flow
but,
in between.
but yeah, but sort of definitely in the end, that last bit where they then double it up as well, because obviously he's got the double
Yeah,
vocals on there.
yeah.
Yeah, I like that bit, but yeah, as a whole, I was like, it, it it didn't grab me. This is probably one of those ones when, 'cause obviously, what we do, breaking the wall here, is once we've done the whole album, I then will sit there and
Yeah.
everything, and then listen to the whole thing. This potentially may come back sort of later on and be the one that I go, oh, I really quite like. But on a first one, there was bits, but it's not the whole.
I think musically it is whether this is the right term, but it feels like the right term in context where I'm going to go is it feels like the most sedate one we've had of the album so far, and it
Yeah,
does feel like a mid-ish album break from some of the I'd say like the highlights, but the more chunkier songs, whether that be like with its hardness or like the variation. But I think what I really I'll get to kind of like the lyrics and the vocals in a minute. 'Cause that's the massive highlight for me. But I do think even in its more sedate nature, I do think there's amazing stuff going on in the music. As you sort of picked on that kind of the electronic bits coming in, and of course we've seen that like throughout this album. I mean, it's quite
mm.
evident that they are mixing in lots of varied sounds and certainly kind of doing an electronic bit. And we kind of haven't really talked about it yet, but to a large part, when they talk about the album, there's bits that come up in songs we've done already, but songs that sort of come down the line of this um, discussion around the world as it was looking like it was going to be when this album was written and probably ultimately turned into, but this move into more of a sort of stale electronic led world, like not necessarily pre-predicting like the massive rise of social media, but what we know becomes like the massive rise of social media and how impersonal the world becomes. And I think like for me, and apologies to you because and I said this on our other videos, like this is an album that's lived with me for years, so there's a lot more kind of a lot more elements that I will kind of put to it that I think if you sit with it for 17 years you might kind of pick up on this stuff, but that teetering and putting that electronic stuff in there fits the wider album motif.
Yeah,
And so I think then those bits being in those songs become more meaningful for me when you've experienced the whole album, if that makes sense. Vocals and lyrics. Vocals and lyrics. Discuss.
so vocally, it was one of those of it has. It's the first one on this album where it really has this drawl in there that that we've had, where sort of that Radiohead Tom York drawl that obviously I said about on the first when we're doing the bends of like, but with this one because it's done because it fits the music. it
Yeah,
was
yeah,
beating in that way that pre us doing this and my sort of pre going with Radiohead was the thing that grated with it. With this, it fits the tone of the song. It fits musically in with what's going on.
yeah.
It would be weird if he was if he was doing singing like fucking James out of
Diana Ross. I don't know
just
why I
say
picked Diana
James
Ross,
out of the
but yeah,
Manics or
yeah, yeah.
Kelly in the
Well,
Stereophonics and have that sort of that more traditional indie delivery
yeah.
wouldn't fit.
Well, you know I'm a big fan of his vocals, but what I really like on this, even more so than the Bends, and certainly a lot more than Pablo Honey is, yeah, he has a sound. You know, most singers have a sound because that's their voice. But I think in this album and on songs like this, even when going to his, like, let's say, natural singing voice, it is that variation and changes of tone within the delivery of the vocals throughout it, but also, as we say, that kind of layering over oneself.
Mm,
But when layering over oneself, that's where the vocal variation comes in. Again, I would say a hard word for me to use, but at base, one of the more simplistic ones, but with a ton of complexity that lays behind it. I think, but part of the genius and the beauty of this song is that it seems, I said earlier, kind of like pared back. I think it seems so simple until you listen to it a few times and you go, wow, actually,
mm,
there's so much in this outside of what felt like the simple kind of more mellow track of the album. Love some of the lyrics in here, by the way, like the crush like a bug in the ground, and then you get the second verse, it's shell smash, juices flowing, like it stays with that motif of the bug on the ground. I know we've picked up some of the lyric stuff, and I've not banged into it too much because obviously it's your first listen. But like, I love the topics that they
mm,
do. You know, I said to you something that is very special about this album to me is it was at a formative stage in my life where I kind of think I thought I wanted to be something else and look at the world with a broader eye. And I think throughout the album you get loads of lyrical delivery that sort of says, yes, there are other people in the world who are trying to look at it in a different way, or see different angles. But where, like, if you're sat at home and you're, I don't know, I'm going to pick a really random thing. You're thinking about, do I want a cheese sandwich or an egg sandwich? Oh, you never have an egg sandwich. Egg sandwiches are gross. But um, there's a kind of a cognitive thought process that says something I know and something I know. And I think, this lyrically leans much more into, if you're reading a book, a great author, where they're going, I want to get my message across to you, but I don't just want to say it in a static,
yeah,
boring way. I want to use similes and metaphors so that actually you get more and more engaged with it. And I think this is one of those songs that sort of beautifully does it. Like you then kind of have this motif of the crushed bug, and then as you're coming towards the end of the song, like it sort of talks about effectively like becoming the butterfly that might have come out of caterpillars generally. And let us know in the comments if there are other things that turn into butterflies, but I always think of caterpillars. And yes, I'm saying this like it's the first band and the only band that's ever done it. Of course it isn't, but there are lots of musical artists that don't, and I think I
mm,
do resonate more with people who want to. It's not A B C D. Like
yeah,
there is an A to D element, but trying to find very, very interesting ways of getting you to D, or to get you to think about the path of A to D rather than telling you it's A, B, C, D. Like, you
yeah.
fill in the B, C yourself by kind of going, does this resonate with me or not resonate with me? But yeah, I'm a big fan of the song, but I can see, like, for you in what we've done so far, it is potentially, I'll go back to that sort of sedate one, that maybe the more sedate, and, I know you, I know what tends to grab you more than anything else. And this
Yeah,
is one of a couple of tracks that I think on the album that won't naturally be your cup of tea. And I almost have pre-written down, I expect it to go meh or bland, because I know they're the two words you like to go to
but
if
this
it's
is the
not. heavy or and I don't mean that as a criticism. Like I mean that as kind of like we know what each other like a
Yeah,
lot. Sometimes we surprise each other, but like you get a feel for
you.
what's going to be for you or not.
I was gonna say usually with things like this, these aren't the ones that I'm gonna like on a first listen be like, oh
Yeah,
fuck yeah.
yeah,
But it's that after listening to it a few times, it then comes back in. And I'm like, oh yeah, no, I get it. Because like when this first started, like lyrics being transport, motorways, tramline, I was like, what's stopping, starting? I was like, is this going to be
some
word
of these
soup?
bloody cars again.
I was like, is he on about cars again, or is this just like word soup? And it took
Again though,
until that,
get ready for cars. That never stops.
but
That's in every album, but
but that was the thing. At the start of it, I was like, oh, it's word soup, sort of like random picked words and go, right, this, that sounds like it rhymes or it flows together. But it wasn't until you get to like the chorus that, and then into that second verse that I can sort of see what he's trying to.
yeah,
Yeah, it's not. As I say, it is great that he doesn't do your A B C D on a first listen. It can sort of throw you though,
yeah.
which is then when you do listen to it again, you get that more appreciation of
Ooh,
what it is and what's going on.
and that kind of
Which,
way of doing it isn't for everyone, is it? Like
yeah,
sometimes it can feel, and not just like with Radiohead. Like go to any artist that does it. Sometimes I think for a like let's say a part of the audience that it won't resonate with, it can feel like being barriers up and oblique for the sake of having barriers up and being oblique, and sometimes even to the point of I think it can feel like a bit. We say guitar wank, but a bit wankery sometimes, can't it?
yeah,
Of kind of going, I don't know, barrier to entry is well, why are you being like that? But yeah, I feel like, and it's a bit cheaty because they're my favorite band, but I feel like when you dig in, there is always enough content behind it so that you actually feel like it was worth digging in, rather than on those other occasions where you do dig in, you just go, oh my god, no, it was just wankery. They really had nothing to say. It is
yeah.
word soup or oblique for the sake of it being oblique.
Just the thing, there's stuff that I like. Like there's some Slipknot stuff, and there's some like Slayer stuff and things like that. Where you look at the words written down, like you just being like the most nasty random shit you can think of in a sentence because you
Yeah,
can. But then it's when you listen to it as the album as a whole, or like
yeah,
it's then when it's then in that wider context, and you've listened to it a few times and you live with it,
yeah.
you then go, I see what you're doing. Because like I love Cannibal Corpse. You look at their lyrics written down, you're just like you just are shouting gore porn out. But then when you look at the album as a whole, it will have a theme that runs through it. Yes, it's to that level of extremity that is
yeah,
them, that's their thing. But as a one-off song, someone will be like, "What the fuck is this?" But you look at the art, the thing as a whole, and live with it. Things like that, and I think this is very similar in that sort of thing with
yeah.
that. It's just
I
obviously
said
a bit
it
more
is.
metaphory.
It is. I almost because I said to you earlier, I love it, and I almost like, sometimes when you say it's an album track, it almost sounds like you're throwing an insult out. But I think, so like when we do these, obviously we record them, and it is kind of reacting to the album. But because we break and we talk between them, it's not the same as putting the album on and listening to it
As a
without any
complete
without any
piece.
breaks. And where I think this one shines as an album track is I think, as you say, when you go back to it afterwards and you listen to the album, it fits snugly, beautifully, and perfectly when you go from track 4 to 5 to 6. I think. Whereas, yeah, maybe with that pause in between, it could initially lose a bit of its impact. But yeah, I do think it's one of those ones where when you listen to the album without gaps, you'll go, yes, that is why that is there in that in the album, and so much more beyond. But yeah, I think it fits perfectly where it sits inside. This is a piece of art. There you go. I think that's the first time I've said piece of art so far. If it isn't, and I said it on here for a video, got a terrible memory.
But yeah, as I said, it is one of those of, as I said, so far it's the one that's the most missable for me. But as I said, it is. I can see already that it's probably in like the grand scheme of it and like as the whole, it will have its place and it will fit. It's just as a first listen, it doesn't have that thing that just sort of grabs you and sort of draws you straight in on it.
I'm gonna say, like, when we get to the end, like, when we do the last track, we'll talk about the album in its entirety as much as we can, because again, bearing in mind this will still be your first listen, etc., etc., etc. But um, this won't be your favorite track, but I'm telling you now, I don't think it'll be your least favorite track. I already have written down the two that I think will be your least favorite tracks, and I think one will be almost a standout. But it'd be interesting to see, though. I may be wrong, but yes, I have pre-predicted what your two least favourites will be.
Hmm. So, as always, YouTubey things of like subscribing and ringing of bells. Let us know down there what you lot think. Album as a whole and this individually. Um, and we will be back very shortly with Karma Police. But until that time, good day.